We're going to give some of the latest and greatest AI image generation models the exact same prompt and then evaluate the images they produce. Our contenders today are ChatGPT Image 2, currently at the top of all the AI image leaderboards, SeeDream 5.0 Pro, this is the one that came out recently, not the light version that's been out for a while now, Nano Banana Pro and Nano Banana 2. 2 is newer, but I like Nano Banana Pro, and I've heard from some viewers who feel the same way. All the images we're looking at today were created on OpenArt. It's my favorite place to create and edit AI images and videos, and the sponsor of this video. Now for each of these, I use the exact same prompt with all 4 models being tested. Here's the prompt I used for the first comparison. For this one, we've got some trouble in the trailer park. In the SeeDream 5.0 Pro image, the first thing I notice is the way the police vehicle is parked, which is not the way any cop would park on this scene, ever. And he's supposed to be getting out of the vehicle, but here it feels like he's just standing there having this whole interaction from that spot. The image looks clean at a distance, but at full resolution on a large screen, the faces are kind of crunchy and problematic, and the smaller text is gibberish. ChatGPT Image 2 gave us a more plausible parking job, and the faces and most of the text, like on her t-shirt, they're solid even at full resolution. The text on the officer's name tag is gibberish, and there's a weird gold thing between the windows on the police vehicle. But the reflections of the officer and whatnot in the police car in that same area are a nice touch. I would point out the way it rendered the police lettering on the side of the vehicle, but I've seen way worse than that in real life. The only thing that really bugs me about this image is how it looks like her hair is being blown back by a strong wind. Weird. Nano Banana Pro produced a good composition. The cop looks like he's just stepping out of the car, and the lady on the porch is already screaming her problem at him, which is exactly what we were going for. I really like the expression on his face, that's legit. The text and lettering on the police car look good. There is something strange about her mouth, and the smaller text, like what's on her shirt and his uniform patch, those are gibberish if you zoom in. Nano Banana 2 has the cop getting out of the passenger side of the vehicle. Maybe he has a partner driver we just can't see, but that's not what I wanted. Her mouth is not normal, and her hand, the one that's on the railing, is all messed up. Her wrist is goofy, and her whole left arm is way smaller than her right arm. But the AC/DC is nice and clear on her shirt, so we've got that. With this next prompt, we're aiming for a group of friends hanging out and playing cards at a backyard picnic table. It focuses on one main subject, a woman with a floral sleeve tattoo, a bandana, and cards fanned out in her hand. They all look good on first impression. Every model produced the woman with the bandana, sleeve tattoo, plausibly mid-laugh, looking across the table with cards fanned out in her hand. SeeDream 5.0 Pro looks structurally sound, but the image overall just looks like it's a little bit soft or rubbery, like every other SeeDream image, in my opinion. ChatGPT Image 2 doesn't have that problem, but it has some other issues, like her holding cards face out. And if we zoom in a bit, we find some weird pretzels that look more like a bowl of worms, a really funky glass of tea in front of the woman in the white shirt, and playing cards that look like double exposures with the front and back printed on the same side. Speaking of the lady in the white t-shirt, she seems to be missing her pants and a right leg. Looks like some smoke or vapor where that other leg should be, so maybe she's just airing things out. Or maybe she got into some of that tainted lettuce or whatever that's going around and she got a little off-gassing going on. Nano Banana Pro doesn't seem to know what a fitted shirt is for our main subject, but it got a Beetlejuice shirt on this guy in the background that we didn't ask for. It did not give me much variation in skin tone like the prompt asked for. These are all pasty white folk. Nano Banana 2 gave us one person with a different skin tone out of 5. Seems like our main subject has a lot of cards in her hand, and if we look at the cards at full resolution, they are not accurate. And that's the case for all 4 of these images. Gibberish numbers or letters, or the number doesn't match the number of symbols, or some other weirdness. But if you aren't using these for life-size billboards, probably not an issue. This one should produce a photorealistic image of a fellow watching clothes tumbling around in a dryer like it was a TV show. Nano Banana 2 choked. He's not even looking at the dryer. The other models got the basic composition. SeeDream has light on the near side of the guy's face, but there doesn't seem to be a light source that would produce that. And his reflection in the dryer looks more like a little dude stuck in the dryer and not so much a reflection of the subject. GPT Image 2, which seems to have the most grain of these models, you might even call it a little crunchy, puts the reflection in an adjacent dryer door, and I guess that's legit depending on the angles. Nano Banana Pro is my pick of this litter. The scene just looks the most real in this one. The clothes are clearly going for a ride in the dryer, the lighting makes sense, and the reflection works. For the next one, we're going for a motel housekeeper sneaking a smoke break by an ice machine. SeeDream 5 Pro shows a really filthy ice machine. I mean, she could at least pretend to be wiping that down while she's having a smoke. But this seems to be a very low-rent motel. They don't even have a cart for the cleaning supplies. Instead, she's using a very small but tall shopping cart that they've snatched from somewhere. ChatGPT Image 2 is my favorite result in this round just for the look on her face. I would not mess with that woman, and if you do, I think you'll find out exactly what she's thinking. Nano Banana Pro has our housekeeper Teresa, I know her name because it put a legible name tag on her uniform, with one cigarette in her mouth and another burning in her hand. She must be having a really rough day. Aside from that, the ice machine doesn't look like any I've ever seen. Nano Banana 2 put the ice machine partly in the wall, not an alcove like the prompt directed. At first I thought she had a cigarette in her mouth and one in her hand like the Nano Banana Pro output, but on closer look, it's just the smoke coming out of her mouth starts off in a dense cylinder, which isn't really how that works. Now, if you're thinking these images look really similar, despite coming from different models, that's because I used my structured prompt format for this batch and most of the others. And in that structured prompt, I included a lot of details. Okay, I didn't include lots of details. The AI that I had turned my idea into a detailed structured prompt, it included a lot of details. And by including more details, like specifying what the uniform should look like, we're keeping more control of the image in the prompt and leaving less for the AI model to make up. I made a video about my structured prompt format recently, and in that video I also give you a meta prompt that you can use to take a short or messy prompt and turn it into a more enhanced, detailed, in a structured format prompt to use to generate images. I'll put a link to that video in the description if you're interested. But there might be times when you want to use a short prompt, leave out the detail, and see where the model goes with it. I did that with this concept of the motel housekeeper on a smoke break, not giving it any details, and here's how that turned out. With much more creative freedom, SeeDream 5 Pro got creative. Our subject seems to be holding the tip of the cigarette and has something else sticking off of her fingers. Can't quite figure that out. She's by the ice machine, but over on the right there's an ice matching sign, presumably machine, but it's missing the E, with an arrow pointing the opposite direction. Now there is another ice machine on the lower floor in that direction, but I would not expect to have more than one at an establishment such as this. And as if you didn't notice, somebody left this HVAC unit blocking the walkway. Maybe she put it there so her boss can't find her. ChatGPT Image 2 mixed up a motel ice machine with a freezer at a convenience store, so they have packaged ice at this motel. Otherwise, they did fairly well with their subject, just don't look at her thumb. And the no smoking sign is a nice touch. I really like what Nano Banana Pro did here. The ice machine looks good, the way she's peeking around it, the sign in the background. The only thing I don't like is that her uniform is filthy. Excessively dirty, like it was buried underground and she just dug it out and put it on.
How about you just worry about yourself and don't be talking about what I got on, okay?
Nano Banana 2 has our housekeeper smoking one cigarette and another lit cigarette in her hand, and I don't know how she's supposed to be sneaking a secret smoke break when she's out in front of the ice machine and everything else, posing with her hand on her hip. Here we're going for a photorealistic image of a woman putting on makeup in the morning. SeeDream 5.0 Pro produced anything but a pro result. The mirror's in the background, so it has her looking into a window in a wall designed by a drunk architect. She also seems to be tangled in her shirt, which apparently was designed by the drunken architect's drunken cousin. GPT Image 2 did better. It's the only one that gave a full reflection of the subject in the mirror. All the other stuff described in the prompt is there, but some of the details are less than awesome, like the mirror frame, which is wider on the left than it is on the right, and it meets the backsplash in a way I would not expect to see in real life. And even though we have a typical size counter there, the sink bowl's about the size of a gravy boat. Not sure why Nano Banana Pro made the mirror filthy, but there it is. And it's also defying a few laws of science because glass doesn't rust. Other than those minor issues, which may not be issues at all if you wanted a dirty mirror and just say that's some kind of crud at the bottom and not rust, Nano Banana Pro made a coherent image with everything I asked for and no other major problems. Nano Banana 2 did something really weird with the mirror, just sort of nailing it to the trim over top the middle of the window, which is supposed to be on her left, not just the left side of the frame. If the window not being on her left isn't a deal breaker, you might be able to make this one usable by just doing a little cropping there on the left side.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah, Ainsley, what's up? This is Ainsley, one of my AI characters.
You know those comments where a few people said you're like too picky when you demo this stuff?
Yeah,
So I think this might be what they're talking about.
could be, but look, there's plenty of people on YouTube that will tell you how mind-blowing and insane everything is. I'm not that guy. I'm going to point out the problems that I see and even some of the minor imperfections. That doesn't necessarily mean that the image is awful or unusable, except when it is. You might think an image is great despite the things I pointed out, and that's awesome. But at least you'll have a realistic idea of what to expect when you use these models, and hopefully you'll get better results than what I showed you here. Maybe you've got an idea to tweak the prompt to resolve some issue that showed up and I pointed out. But I don't want to make it look or sound like everything's perfect and then have viewers be disappointed and think they must be doing something wrong when they go to try something and it doesn't turn out perfect. I don't mean to be negative. On the upside, the results that we're getting today are 100 times better than what we got from AI image models a year ago. Yeah, I still count fingers. I think I probably always will from now on. But missing or deformed digits is happening much less frequently, and overall, the quality and capability of AI image models is really impressive.
Okay, Boomer, so that was like a whole lecture. I'm going back to cyberspace now. Peace out.
Not a boomer. I'm Gen X. For this next one, I want to capture the tension right before something happens. In this case, a defendant along with his attorney right before the verdict is delivered. In the SeeDream 5.0 Pro image, the defendant's posture and expression aren't looking so much like he's nervous about the verdict, but more like he's about to turn into a robot or fixing to jump over that table. But the bigger problem is the judge is in the back of the room looking at the gallery and the defense table from behind. Never seen that before. No major complaints with what ChatGPT Image 2 did here. The courtroom layout's somewhat unusual. That section of people in the top right of the frame seems like we'd be seeing the prosecution table there, or maybe the jury facing basically toward the camera. Otherwise, the defendant's expression and posture and the attorney, they all convey what I was going for. Nano Banana Pro has the most realistic courtroom layout of the batch. The attorney's being compassionate, and she has to know what's coming. That guy looks guilty as hell. Yeah, not so much an anxious anticipation of the verdict kind of look, more like an indignant plotting a violent crime spree kind of vibe. Nano Banana 2 has another weird courtroom layout where I guess the gallery of spectators observes from the side rather than the back of the room, and what looks like the jury box is pushed right up against the defense table. To me, the defense attorney looks like a mom looking at her kid with disappointment, but at least the defendant doesn't come across as a violent lunatic. He's given off the right vibe of nervous anticipation. Now, I included quite a bit of detail in the prompt for this topic, but I also tried it with just a really simple prompt, and they didn't turn out so great. SeeDream's missing the judge, ChatGPT put the defendant at the corner of the table, and Nano Banana Pro put the defense table with its back to the judge. But as stupid as it was, it gave me an idea for a stupid little video.
I'll be back. I took a laxative instead of my birth control pill this morning, and it just kicked in!
Like I said earlier, OpenArt is my favorite place to work with AI images and videos. To create AI images on OpenArt, just come to Image and then click Create Image. Select the model that you want to use. They have all the latest models and many more. Then enter your prompt. Come down here and make any adjustments to the settings you want, like changing the aspect ratio or resolution. Some of these settings will vary based on which model you selected. For ChatGPT Image 2, there's also a quality setting. Select how many versions you want to create with this prompt and these settings, and then hit the Go button. And if you want some help turning a shorter, messy prompt into something more detailed and structured, just click this magic wand Enhance Prompt button, and it'll turn your prompt into something much more robust. Of course, you should check it out before you hit the Go button here to make sure you're happy with all the details. If you don't like anything that it added, you can go ahead and change those and then hit the Go button. OpenArt has plans starting at $12.60 a month if you pay annually, or $14 a month if you pay monthly. As of this recording, the Infinite plan seems to be the sweet spot at $43.70 a month if you pay annually. That gets you 24,000 credits a month and access to all the goodies, including their new Director tool, which is like vibe coding but for AI video creation. You just chat with the tool like you would with ChatGPT, and it creates the videos for you. Hey, my name is Bob. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you found this video helpful or at least entertaining, and I hope you'll come back and join me for another video.